The disappearance of Madeleine McCann has captivated the world for more than a decade. On May 3, 2007, the 3-year-old vanished from a holiday apartment while her parents, Kate and Gerry McCann, were dining with friends at a nearby restaurant just 55 meters away. What if the truth behind Madeleine McCann's disappearance isn't what we've been led to believe? Could it be the McCanns, the very parents who have spent years pleading for their daughter's safe return, are concealing a dark secret? Are they complicit, or could they be victims of a complex conspiracy designed to shift attention away from the real perpetrators?
New developments in a case making global headlines for more than 15 years now. Authorities in Portugal tonight say they are resuming the search for Madeleine McCann, the British toddler who disappeared from her bed in a southern Portuguese resort in 2007. Police now say they will search a reservoir tomorrow at the request of German authorities who have identified the suspect.
Join us as we explore the most controversial and unsettling theories surrounding the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. The McCanns, both respected doctors, were on holiday with their children and a group of friends known as the Tapas 7. The evening began with a relaxed atmosphere as the adults gathered at the resort's tapas bar for dinner, taking comfort in their routine of checking on their children at regular intervals. But at around 10 p.m., Kate discovered Madeleine was missing. The window was open and the shutters had been raised, sparking immediate fear and confusion. But who would have noticed anything unusual that night? The only significant lead came from one of their friends, Jane Tanner, who reported seeing a man carrying a young child away from the area about 45 minutes before Kate's alarming discovery. The details surrounding the McCann family's stay at the Ocean Club Resort only deepened the mystery. Their ground floor apartment was accessible from a public street, and sliding doors at the back, left unlocked by the McCanns, opened toward the resort's pool area. Tanner's sighting became a pivotal point in the investigation, raising suspicion of a possible abduction. However, years later, Scotland Yard determined the man she saw was likely another tourist returning from the resort's creche with his own child, not an abductor. On the night Madeleine McCann disappeared, another significant sighting was reported by Irish tourists Martin and Mary Smith. Around 10 p.m., they saw the man on Rua da Escola Primaria, about 460 meters from the McCann's apartment. He was walking away from the Ocean Club Resort towards the beach. The Smiths described him as a slim, mid-30s man with short brown hair, wearing cream or beige trousers, carrying a blonde, barefoot girl in pajamas, who appeared about 3 to 4 years old. The man looked uneasy and didn't resemble a tourist. E-fits based on the Smiths' descriptions initially created in 2008 and were publicized 5 years later by Scotland Yard, suggesting this sighting might pinpoint the timeline of Madeleine's abduction. This is around the same time that Kate McCann went to check on her children and discovered that Madeleine's missing. Kate then ran back to the restaurant screaming, "Madeleine's gone! Someone's taken her!" This led the McCanns and their friends to organize a frantic search. The resort activated its missing child protocol at 10:30 p.m., and over 60 guests and staff members searched until the early morning hours. Portuguese police responded to the scene, with the first officers arriving at 11:10 p.m., followed by the PJ, Portugal's criminal police, an hour later. Despite their efforts, significant mistakes were acknowledged in securing the scene and conducting the initial investigation. These included the delays in alerting Border Patrol and issuing an international alert. The apartment remained open to various people, potentially compromising forensic evidence. In the UK, Leicestershire police coordinated the British response, which created tension between Portuguese and British authorities due to cultural differences and the intense media focus on the case. The McCanns, determined to keep public attention on the case, managed a highly visible PR campaign, which included visits to religious sites and public figures, even meeting the Pope Benedict XVI. While this campaign ensured Madeleine's story remained in the public eye, it also drew media skepticism regarding the scale and professionalism of their approach. Shortly after Madeleine McCann's disappearance, Portuguese police named Robert Murat, a British-Portuguese consultant living nearby, as their first suspect. Murat became a person of interest after a journalist mentioned that he had shown unusual interest in the case. Although Murat and his mother insisted he was home all night, some members of the McCann group claimed to have seen him near the scene. Despite exhaustive searches of his property, including draining his pool and investigating his electronics and garden, No evidence linked Murat to Madeleine's disappearance. His suspect status was eventually removed in 2008, and he later won substantial libel damages from the media. Suspicion extended to several men reportedly behaving suspiciously near the McCann's apartment in the days before Madeleine's disappearance. Some were seen collecting for charity with questionable motives, while others loitered or surveyed the area. Witnesses noted unsettling patterns, including requests for donations to fictitious orphanages and actions suggesting reconnaissance for burglary or worse. But here's the twist. Attention soon shifted to the McCanns themselves. By the June 2007, rumors began circulating that they might have been involved in their daughter's disappearance. Portuguese media pointed out inconsistencies in their statements, fueling theories that Madeleine might have died accidentally in the apartment. Police scrutiny intensified, examining the McCann's routine checks and raising questions about whether the apartment's shutters could be opened from the outside. These doubts contributed to a theory that the McCanns could have concealed Madeleine's body following an accidental death.
How do you deal with the fact that more and more people seem to be pointing the finger at you, saying the way you behave is not the way people would normally behave if their child is abducted, and they seem to imply that you might have something to do with it?
To be honest, I don't actually think that is the case. I think that's a very small minority of people that are criticising us. You know, the facts are out there. We were dining very close to the children and we were checking on them very, very regularly. You know, we are very responsible parents and we love our children so much, and I think it's only a very few people that are actually criticising us.
I have never heard before that anyone considers us suspects in this, and the Portuguese police certainly don't. And without getting into too much detail about the circumstances, we were with a large group of people, and you know, there is absolutely no way Kate and I are involved in this abduction.
In June 2007, the McCanns, feeling desperate to find their missing daughter, suggested the Portuguese police request help from Danny Krugel, a former South African police officer. But what made Krugel's methods so unique? Krugel claimed his matter orientation system could locate missing people using DNA and satellite technology.
When Madeleine disappeared, Gerry called me one night. He called me and he said, "I've heard about you and can I help?" So I said, of course, we will do our utmost best to try to help.
Krugel claims his device uses an object's atomic makeup to detect similar or identical objects in the area.
A person disappears. You find a few strands of hair left on a brush. You put those hairs into a gadget, and that points out on a map where in the world that person may be.
Despite skepticism from experts, the McCanns sent him samples of Madeleine's hair, hoping for a breakthrough. Krugel arrived in Portugal on July 15th and reported a static signal near Praia da Luz Beach, sparking further investigations. Inspector Gonçalo Amaral of the PJ suspected Kate McCann's support of Krugel's methods was an attempt to discreetly find her daughter's body without self-incrimination. Consequently, the PJ sought British assistance in the search for Madeleine, which led to the involvement of Mark Harrison, the UK's National Search Advisor. This request brought Mark Harrison, the UK's National Search Advisor, to Portugal, where he inspected search areas and dismissed Krugel's theories as improbable. He recommended advanced search techniques, including ground-penetrating radar and the use of specially trained sniffer dogs, Keela and Eddie. Keela was trained to detect human blood, while Eddie was a cadaver dog. They arrived in Praia da Luz on July 31st. When taken to apartment 5A, Eddie alerted to the scent of a human cadaver near the sofa in the living room and the wardrobe in the main bedroom of apartment 5A. However, no alerts were detected on the beach or nearby wasteland. The investigation extended to the McCanns' rented house and car, where Eddie reacted to Madeleine's cuddle cat and the Renault Scenic that the McCanns had rented weeks after her disappearance. In August, DNA samples collected from these searches were sent to the UK's Forensic Science Service. Using a controversial method called low copy number DNA testing, they found a partial match to Madeleine's DNA in the car, but the results were deemed too complex for conclusive use. Nonetheless, Portuguese police shifted their focus to a murder inquiry and pressured Kate McCann to confess to an accidental death. saying she might receive a lighter sentence. On the September 7th, the McCanns were officially named as suspects in their daughter's disappearance. Kate refused to answer numerous questions during police interviews, and rumors swirled about allegedly incriminating DNA evidence, though the British police did not confirm these claims. Despite the growing suspicion, the McCanns were allowed to return to the UK on the September 9th. Around the same time, Chief Inspector Tavares de Almeida publicly suggested that Madeleine had likely died in the apartment and that her parents staged the abduction to cover it up. However, despite years of investigation, no definitive evidence emerged that could link the McCanns to Madeleine's disappearance, leaving the case rife with speculation and unanswered questions. The investigation took another dramatic turn when the Chief Inspector Gonzalo Amaral was removed from the case in October 2007 after making controversial statements about the British police. But why was Amaral such a controversial figure in the case? Amaral had previously faced criticism for his handling of another case and was later charged with perjury, receiving a suspended sentence. His successor, Paulo Rebelo, expanded the investigation team and attempted to move the case forward, but setbacks continued. In the 2008, Portuguese police tried to reconstruct the case, but the McCann family's friends, the Tapa 7, refused to cooperate. By July 2008, the case was officially closed due to a lack of evidence, and the McCanns were cleared of suspicion. During this time, Amaral published a book claiming Madeleine had accidentally died in the apartment and that the McCanns had covered it up. The McCanns sued him for libel, and while they initially won damages, the ruling was overturned in 2016, with Portugal's Supreme Court siding with Amaral. Amid this turmoil, the McCanns established the Madeleine Fund, which raised significant donations, including contributions from celebrities like J.K. Rowling and Richard Branson. Despite some scrutiny over how the funds were spent, the fund supported private investigations. They hired Oakley International, a detective agency, to follow leads in Portugal, focusing on child abduction and organized crime. One lead involved a man seen near the McCanns' apartment, but it led nowhere after further investigation. The case remained unresolved, with no solid evidence, and public interest continued to intensify. The case of Madeleine McCann's disappearance became one of the most haunting mysteries of the 21st century, generating enormous public attention and media scrutiny. In 2011, Scotland Yard launched Operation Grange, a large-scale investigation that cost millions. The team reviewed thousands of documents, interviewed hundreds of witnesses, and even recreated events for a BBC Crime Watch special. Several theories were explored, including abduction by a stranger, Madeleine wandering off, or involvement of burglars, given the rise in break-ins around Praia da Luz. However, by 2017, the investigation began to focus more narrowly. A significant lead came from mobile phone tracking, which identified calls made near the Ocean Club, where Madeleine vanished in 2007. A 30-year-old former bus driver and 2 associates became suspects after phone data linked them to the area. They denied involvement, but their connection to the case added to the mystery. Meanwhile, a key discovery linked the case to Euclides Montero, a former worker at the Ocean Club. Though Montero died in a tractor accident in 2009, his cell phone was found near the scene the night Madeleine vanished. He had a history of break-ins to fund his drug habit, and some believed he was connected to earlier child sexual assaults in the area. Could he have been involved in Madeleine's disappearance, or was it merely a coincidence? As the investigation progressed, Scotland Yard uncovered a chilling connection to a series of sexual assaults in the Algarve. The attacker, suspected to be Montero, had a pattern of entering homes at night and assaulting young girls. Could this lead be the key to solving the case? In 2020, a major development occurred when German authorities identified Christian Bruckner, a convicted child rapist, as prime suspect. They claimed to have concrete evidence linking him to Madeleine's murder. While this raised hopes that the case might finally be moving forward, legal complications slowed the pursuit of justice.
The main Madeleine McCann suspect, Christian Bruckner, allegedly confessed to a prison inmate that he snatched a child from a Portuguese apartment. A court was told today that the 47-year-old confided about his past after asking cellmate Laurence UC if he too was behind bars for child offences. The drifter then allegedly admitted he had taken a child during a break-in in Portugal before he begged the fellow prisoner to burn down his secret lair when he got out of prison. Laurentiu also claimed Maddie may have been buried after saying the rapist had asked him if the DNA from a child can be taken from bones under the ground.
Bruckner, who had a history of violent crimes, had made unsettling statements before Madeleine's disappearance. Authorities later found his car near the scene and traced his movements to locations believed to be linked to the crime. Despite this, investigations into other possible suspects continued, leaving the lingering question, would Madeleine McCann ever receive justice? Detective Bernd Stellander added to the controversy surrounding the case with his provocative theory. He argued that there was no abduction and that Madeleine may have tragically died in the family's vacation apartment. Stellander suggested that there was insufficient evidence to support an abduction and proposed that her parents, Kate and Gerry McCann, may have hidden her body. He criticized the investigation for overlooking crucial evidence, such as phone records and witness statements, and hinted at a possible cover-up involving influential figures that he believes has hindered the search for the truth behind Madeleine's disappearance.
And then you have the cover-up, So now you're not throwing the McCanns under the bus. You're looking up at the government that want to protect the cover-up. And that is the big thing. So they can keep you in check very easily, these friends. And they haven't spoken. So they had a meeting. It's called the secret meeting in Rothley, Pact of Silence. I think David Payne may have used those words to the media. And it's easier to sit still in the bus and let this. But they didn't. They had no clue this was going so big. But in the night, you have a few glasses of wine. You have one of the children in one of the locked apartments fall behind the sofa, cracks her head. One family's the lucky one, and that is where the chief in command, and he convinces everybody else that they're in the same boat and they gotta help out. But they have already basically taken part, not all of them, of course, a few of them knowingly, helping to get rid of the body. For me, I found that the place was the cemetery, and this was based on Kate's words.
For many, the lingering questions remain. Was the abduction a carefully constructed cover-up? Could authorities have been complicit in hiding uncomfortable truths, possibly influenced by pressure from powerful figures? Despite all the investigations, forensic advances, and international scrutiny, no theory, no matter how far-fetched, has yielded clear answers. One of the most perplexing aspects of the case was Kate McCann's refusal to answer certain police questions during the investigation. For example, she declined to answer questions about whether she had ever sedated her children, a topic that fueled media speculation. She also refused to comment on whether she thought the Tapas 7 were involved in Madeleine's disappearance. These unanswered questions only added to the mystery, deepening the suspicion and intrigue surrounding the case. As time passes, the chilling mystery only grows more profound, leaving the world to question if we will ever truly uncover what happened to Madeleine McCann. Perhaps only time will tell. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you want more updates on this case, and subscribe for more true crime stories.